I am a 22-year-old female and do not have a problem with alcohol. I do not even drink. My boyfriend, who is 30 years old, has an alcohol problem. What has helped or is helping you to avoid drinking if you struggle with alcohol? Story 1. I'll get roasted for this by the Alcoholics Anonymous crowd. But marijuana. Marijuana is much better tolerated. You cannot overdose on it. I have abused marijuana to the maximum possible during the hardest times in life, and the worst it got was that I ate snacks and did Sudoku in my underwear with my phone ringer on silent for a few weeks. Story 2. I stopped drinking when I finally wanted to quit. Nobody can fix it for you. You need to be the one who walks the path. It has been a bit over 2 years, and I feel great. Story 3. Cutting it off completely helped immensely with my sleep, weight loss, overall feeling, and mental clarity. Story 4. My dad has had major alcoholism issues throughout my life. Last year, after a night out, I ruined the relationship I was in because I was unhappy and expressed it while drunk. I realized I was repeating the same behavior my dad had. I made some rules about alcohol after that. No liquor, no drinking during the day, no drinking on an empty stomach, and a maximum of 2 beers. Following these rules removed most of my urge to drink. I started actively declining when offered alcohol. I had to make the change for myself. Unfortunately, many people cannot do that without serious consequences beforehand. Overall, I realized that I do not need to get extremely intoxicated to enjoy drinking. I used to drink heavily almost always. Now I can watch a hockey game and enjoy a beer or two without embarrassing myself or causing problems with the people I care about. Story 5. The person I valued more than myself walked away from me, citing self-preservation as her main purpose. I was devastated. We celebrated 10 years together last month, and I have been sober for 9 of them. Story 6. I got tired of hangovers, tired of saying things to people that I did not mean, and tired of doing things I would never do if sober. I just stopped. Story 7. I went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting over 9 years ago, listened, and have not picked up a drink since. I attend every week to keep myself in check. Story 8. The realization that I was slowly harming myself and that stopping could also cause a medical emergency was clear. I was in a very bad situation. Word of advice, he has to quit for himself. Nothing you do or say will convince him if he is not ready. It might be worth checking out Al-Anon. Story 9. I never had a problem with it myself, but I had a friend who died from his liver failing due to drinking. Sometimes there is just nothing you can do, unfortunately. The person needs to want to quit and be willing to suffer through it. Story 10. Divorcing my wife, who said I had a problem with alcohol. True story. I have not drunk since I became divorced. Unfortunately, she still drinks and calls me often when she is drunk. Story 11. Working with a medical professional to address it. Becoming aware of the negative consequences of the ongoing behavior. Story 12. Smoking marijuana makes me not want to drink. But right now I cannot smoke marijuana because I am applying for jobs and they all drug test. I live in a legal state too. Story 13. Honestly, I hated who I had become. I tried quitting a few times before I hit that point, but never lasted more than 8 months. One day, I decided it was enough and just quit. I found myself doing more hiking that summer, and it seemed to help. It will be 5 years without it at the end of this month. I also became more interested in my plant hobby since being sober, so that probably helped too. Story 14. My liver started hurting. I was not at rock bottom, but my life has improved since I quit, no doubt. I have known alcohol was not doing me any favors since my early 20s and dabbled with sobriety a bit in my late 20s to early 30s. I thought I had a handle on it and could drink like a normal person. Here we are 10 years later. I cannot drink like anyone else but myself, an alcoholic. Story 15. In my line of work, we have bars in our workplace and a strong drinking culture. I am a heavy drinking alcoholic. I joined a program through work and now avoid any work events with alcohol. I also volunteer to drive when I cannot avoid a work event so others can ensure I do not drink, as I am their ride home. Support from my wife is what really enabled me to quit. If it were not for her calling me out, I would probably be dead. Story 16. I was a death spiral alcoholic. I would have seizures and need hospitalization whenever I tried stopping. It took a lot of hard work, many relapses, many hospital visits, rehabilitation, and lots of therapy before it stuck. Story 17. The only thing that helped me was quitting. I tried all kinds of moderation techniques, and each time I ended up back where I started, so I quit altogether 28 years ago and have remained stopped. You may want to consider your options. Story 18. The stop drinking community has been helpful, but the only thing that really helps me is not having alcohol anywhere in the house and not going out. The only time I can control it is at work functions because I have seen people get totally intoxicated and lose their jobs. 3 men took out a group of clients, got very drunk, and allowed them to run up a $15,000 tab because they were too intoxicated to realize it. None of this may help you, but I can tell you it definitely got worse as I got older. I had more disposable income than in my 20s, and I could always find an excuse to drink. Story 19. I knew I had a problem by the time I turned 23. I would always drink to the point of physical illness, and the hangovers were brutal, nausea and vomiting. Sometimes I would quit for a few weeks here and there, but I kept drinking and struggling until I was 28. On Christmas Eve, in the early hours of Christmas Day, while vomiting into my kitchen sink, my perspective shifted, and I literally saw myself from a third-person view, like a movie camera. It was pretty strange. My drinking buddy Kyle was with me. I gave him the rest of my beer and alcohol that night, and I have not had a drink since December 25, 2014. What helped? Online support groups helped me quite a bit. Also, professional counseling was worth every penny. I am sorry you are the partner of someone with alcohol problems. I hope he finds that deep clarity someday. People have to truly want to quit, and even then, for some of us, it is still a struggle. There is not much you can do aside from reading information from Al-Anon. Story 20. Don't do what I did. Don't even think about doing what I did. I tried to end my life by shooting myself in the head with a crossbow. There's a lot that goes into that story, but the short version is that I was on a lot of drugs and alcohol and hated myself because of it. I survived and decided to make a change so I would be happier with myself. I still drink and smoke marijuana for the phantom pains from that event, but it's much more limited now. Generally, I have about 2 shots of good whiskey, maybe more if it's a special event, or sometimes when I'm having a rough time, which I do not suggest because it's not a healthy coping mechanism. But even then, the most I will do is about 5 shots. Story 21. My problem was not quitting, it was staying quit. After I hit my rock bottom, I decided to get help. A friend suggested Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous provided me the solution to stay stopped and to live a life free from addiction. Story 22. He has to want to stop. If he does not want to stop, then you are the one who has a problem. He just has a habit. Story 23. Hitting rock bottom. Being given a stark look at reality and potential future by my wife. Decidedly, I need her far more than the bottle. I have never looked back. Your boyfriend's experience may vary, as there is a catalyst to stop for every person. He has to want to stop and have a reason to be a better version of himself. I wish you both the very best. Story 24. The thing that helped me was working a lot more. Of course, the downside was being able to afford better, more expensive alcohol. It wasn't until I was spending close to $500 a week on alcohol that I realized I was spending too much. Story 25. Switching to fitness and getting lean helped me focus on my nutritional intake in my 30s. I wanted to do this for myself and my loved ones. Story 26. Naltrexone, with or without the Sinclair method, is a game changer. It may sound too good to be true and counterintuitive, but it works for over 80% of people who do it and take it seriously. There are plenty of resources available online. That said, your boyfriend will have to want to change. If he does not want to make the change, nothing will work for him. Story 27. There are usually underlying reasons why we are drinking. Figuring those out helps with significant change. However, this needs to come from within him. If it is coming from you and not him, it will not create true change because he will always be trying not to do it for you but for himself. The Thinking Mind podcast was very helpful. Story 28. It's never too soon to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. and there are agnostic groups for it as well. After 3 sessions, I successfully stopped drinking alcohol for a year, and when I resumed, it was by choice and under control. Non-alcoholic beers also help me satisfy that grown-up treat itch, and there are some pretty good ones. I do not recommend the Shiner brand, though, as they taste strange. Story 29. I was an alcoholic and did the exercises in the book 30-Day Sobriety Solution. I have been sober for just over 7 years now. Story 30. Yeah, I just stopped drinking for a while after I blacked out at a family wedding. I almost dropped out of first year due to excessive drinking after my grandmother died. I still drink, but maybe once a month. I get high every day though. Story 31. How do you struggle with alcohol? Trouble opening the bottle? Just use a bottle opener. It is really easy. Story 32. The ideal is healthy obsessions, but I know several people with alcohol use disorder who haven't had a drop in several years because they switched to cannabis. It's not perfect, can be abused too, and the risk is that someone just picks up cannabis in addition to drinking or alternates between them. The key, in my opinion, is seeing or knowing someone who has struggled or been worse off from alcohol and recognizing that's what happens without getting it under control. This is why Alcoholics Anonymous helps so many. My cousin just drank himself to death a few months ago. He was in his mid-40s, having a few bottles of wine a day and never even tried to quit. His mother literally snuck wine into hospice for him so he could die drunk. That really shifted my perspective on drinking. Story 33. What helps me is staying out of environments that will cause me to drink. I have found that I am the type of drinker who is all or nothing. I can either have 0 drinks or more than 10. I cannot have 1 or 2 drinks responsibly. Story 34. Using a bottle opener. I am not a fancy guy. I am used to twist-off caps and could not figure out why it was so tough. Story 35. I don't know if I would technically be considered an alcoholic, but I am very much an, if I have it, I will use it, addictive and obsessive type of personality, so I just try not to buy it. I switched to cannabis, which is its own thing. When I quit cannabis, I got really into building Lego. The big things for me were recognizing that it was making me feel bad, affecting my quality of life, and replacing it with a new, less harmful addiction. These days, I ride bikes and engage in other exercise. Staying clear of toxic relationships and environments is important too. I mostly got intoxicated to tolerate life at the time. Story 36. My wife had trouble stopping once she started drinking. It was hard for her to stop at one, and she could easily get drunk if someone else was not with her to help her stop having too many. What helped her was getting on Strattera, a medication for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. She says after a few weeks on it, her urge to drink and her urge to keep drinking drastically decreased. She barely drinks at all now, and if she does, she never has too much. Story 37. I was a horrible binge drinker for 39 years. Accumulated 6 alcohol-related arrests along the way. Lost jobs, friends, lovers, and countless opportunities. I finally stopped after spending a few years barely employed and depressed. I lucked into a great job paying more than I ever had before, but it required keeping a commercial driver's license. I reduced my drinking to occasional days off so I would never go into work still intoxicated. I also started meditating and took a round of cognitive behavioral therapy. 5 years ago, I had 2 weeks of vacation and a fridge full of beer. Out of nowhere, still depressed but improved, I decided to drink it all and then stop. See how long I could go. I would never drink again now because of how much my life has improved. I wish I had done this years ago, but I am good now and that is okay. Never did 12-step programs unless ordered by a judge. Not for me anyway. Again, I am good now. Therapy helped in a delayed way though, and I am going to go back for another round of that. Story 38. What is the problem? Missing work and family functions to stay in and get drunk? He needs Alcoholics Anonymous and to stop drinking. He has a glass of wine with dinner? Not a problem at all. Story 39. I moderated my drinking by realizing it was not a physical addiction but a ritualistic one. I did not need the alcohol. I needed the process that symbolized the end of the workday and the time to relax. I started mixing complex, interesting non-alcoholic drinks instead of alcoholic beverages. I still drink alcohol sometimes, but I no longer drink it every day or even every week. Start by making shrubs and mix them with soda water, no alcohol. Story 40. Watching my father go through addiction problems was the first thing, and I just got tired of waking up in the morning with a pounding head, feeling dizzy and lightheaded, barely able to breathe, not knowing what had happened, and having to be told an embarrassing story. Story 41. Usually, it is the reasons driving you to drink that need to be managed. If the thing you are trying to use alcohol to escape from is not there anymore, then there is no need to drink. You can still drink for fun, but it will not be a problem. Story 42. It was fun in my 20s. I could drink a fifth of whiskey until 3 in the morning and then go play basketball at 8 a.m. Now I am 34, and if I drink enough to feel it much, my body hates me for 3 days. I also discovered that I am allergic to many things, including wheat, so I have cut out a lot of alcohol because of that. Story 43. This is the saddest part of the disease, but at least you are seeing it at an early age and not decades into a marriage. My mother-in-law has been married for over 40 years, and only in the last few weeks has she started to realize that her husband may have a drinking problem. For years, it has been a string of excuses from her for his behavior. The person with the problem has to fully own it and face it. They have to witness and atone for all the lives they have harmed in the process, and the alcoholic must never touch alcohol again. No flirting with kombucha, drinking a little on New Year's, or when their favorite sports team wins the championship. It must be total abstinence with zero excuses. You are young, and I will be real with you. Unless your partner is fully on board and committed to a life of sobriety, it is time to leave because it will only get worse. Story 44. Getting out of whatever rut you're in. When my kid's mother got married, I'm not even sure why I cared since I have no feelings. She cheated on me, so it made it pretty easy to move on. She started drinking about 3 to 8 drinks a night when I don't have the kids, which is 50% of the time. This was around 8 months ago, and I'm finally out of whatever rut I was in. Story 45. 1 is too many and 1,000 never enough. If that fits, you might have the disease. If so, get to a meeting and be around like-minded people. They will show you the way that worked for them. Story 46. I decided I was done being unhealthy and overweight. I tried many things, but one approach made a difference. Tracking my calories with an application helped me get my diet under control. Creating that habit and reinforcement feedback loop replaced my alcohol habit. Tracking turned to abstaining, which led to dramatic weight loss. I began paying attention to fitness data, which developed into a gym obsession. I just wish I had started when I was younger, not in my 40s. Story 47. I enjoy kava as a substitute, but honestly the only way to quit is to decide you are done and do it, in my opinion. Story 48. It is hard to quit alcohol when you are around people who drink because social drinking makes quitting nearly impossible. Going cold turkey helped me, but I had to show restraint during the first few months. After 6 months, my body naturally felt repulsed by alcohol. Embracing fitness and a healthy lifestyle also helps. Story 49. It sounds simple, but the first step is to stop buying it. However, if your boyfriend does not admit that he has a problem, nothing will solve this issue. Even if he quits for a month or 2, he will likely go back to it. He is your boyfriend, not your husband, and if you are afraid for yourself, you need to get away from him. Remember, if he has not acknowledged the problem and taken real steps to stop, when he tries to get you back after not drinking for a month or 2, he will return to it as soon as you are back in his life. Story 50. Keeping busy helps me keep my mind off alcohol. The hassle of obtaining alcohol must be greater than my urge to drink. Story 51. I have struggled more since I had a car accident that injured my back. I was definitely self-medicating to some extent. Lately, I have been using more cannabidiol to help manage the pain and improve sleep. This may not help if the boyfriend is truly addicted to alcohol, but taking cannabidiol at night to help with the pain has been a real relief. I also drink ginger beer since I am so accustomed to drinking while hanging out or watching a movie. Story 52. COVID-19. I have antibodies, and it was asymptomatic despite my already precarious health. In 2021, I drank wine on my birthday, November 24th. January 12th, 2022, was my friend's birthday, and he hosted a buffet party at his house. I could not drink at all. He knew that I loved absinthe, so he bought it and even learned a few cocktails. However, I have not been able to drink beer since that day. Story 53. I think many of my friends and I are alcoholics, to be honest. Every hangout or activity involves alcohol. I don't drink as often as I used to because hangovers hit harder, and I feel much worse the next day than before. I also want to stay healthy for my future children, so I try to limit my intake. I still drink, but I am conscious about it every time I do. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.